with our host, Dr. Gilda Carle. Dr. Gilda, we
Hello.
talked about the one you had a couple of days ago. We still were talking about it. Then Fox News steals it. See, one of our,
No, they didn't steal
yeah,
it. No, they
yeah,
did not.
yeah,
No, they
yeah.
did not. It was in the New York Post. Gutfeld gets a lot of his stories from the New York Post. They are in the same building. I know
Oh,
where the
okay.
Post is. I know where Fox News is. I know where all these offices are. And
Well, we broke it first, but go ahead with our next one.
we broke it to the public first after Fox and um, after the New York Post wrote about it. And then Gutfeld used it on his show. And that's about asking babies for permission to diaper them. So, and you wisely said, well, it goes down into the subconscious, and we're teaching babies how to
Know who's in
care for
charge? The
their
baby's in
body.
charge then, right?
Well, the baby's always in charge. Well, you don't think so, but the baby is always in charge. So today, I want to talk about something. Are we on?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Oh, I didn't, I didn't know we were having a show yet. Okay. I want to talk about these smutty magazines like Playboy and Hustler and all those magazines. And in the day when somebody became really, really well known, very famous, um, your next step up, they thought, was to get nude and pose for Playboy.
Mhm.
Now, I have a friend whose name I will not use because I didn't ask for her permission to use her name in public, but I have a friend who was a model in the 80s, well-known model,
Mhm.
on major, over 500 covers of these major glossies. And she did very, very well. And she refused to go nude.
Mm.
And for whatever the reason at the time, she refused to go nude. Now, here's the interesting thing. Now that she is in her 60s,
Right.
and wait a minute, chords are getting mixed up. Now that she's in her 60s, she's so glad that she didn't pose without clothes. She has children who are in their 30s, and they keep saying, boys, and they keep saying, Mom, I'm so glad you didn't pose nude. So here the same story occurred with Melissa Joan Hart. Remember her?
Mm-hmm.
You remember what she was
Yeah,
in?
Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
That's right. Uh, and I'm trying to see what else. She was in a whole bunch of different things. Anyway, so she was doing very well at the start of her career, and she too was invited by Playboy to pose in the nude. And she said, I'm not going to do that. And she said, I don't want to hurt my family because they saw me posing in my underwear one day for something, and my poor brother and father had to live with all these people commenting about how disgusting it was, etc., etc. So she said she didn't want to offend her family. That's a
Mhm.
good family values kind of desire.
Yep.
Well, now she's turning around and saying, oh, am I ever glad that I did not pose nude because my sons are of an age and they're saying, Mom, I am so glad that my friends don't have to see you naked. And that's exactly what my friend said
Mm-hmm.
about her grown-up sons now. She said, I'm so glad I didn't. So there is a moral to this story.
Okay, what's the
Many
moral?
years, many years ago, I did a workshop for girls from the inner city in LA. And I was teaching them how to be respectful of themselves. And I told them, once you post something on the internet it stays there forever. They didn't believe, they refused to believe me. We called Verizon in, and Verizon said to them, nope, once it's on the internet, it is yours forever. It travels around with you. Today, I did a podcast with people I didn't know. I was sent there by our publicist for International Council for Men and Boys. And they were happy to meet me. They didn't know my name. But then they looked me up on the internet. And the man said, you used to be on Sally Jesse Raphael. These are guys from another country. And he said, you used to be, we saw you on Sally Jesse Raphael. I said, yeah, I was on every single talk show and news show for a lot of years. And he said, wow, you've been around in this industry. I said, yes, I have. And then we went into the interview. But the point to remember is that anybody can find your history. So if you're thinking of doing the dirty and putting it on air, be very careful. It will follow you forever. And I don't know how long forever lasts, but if it keeps following you, you may be ashamed when you're grown and you have kids of your own and you're telling them not to do such things, because that's when it will catch up with you. So that's the moral. Be careful of what you do, but always think that in the background, this will follow you years later. And where will you be? You may choose to become the president of the United States. It will follow you. That will be very damaging to you. And few people can rise above the damaging rhetoric that's in the media after it's in the media. So I warn you all, parents, be mindful to tell your kids, remind your kids, once it's on the internet, it is there forever. Once you have a reputation, it is yours forever. Now, some people can take bad reputations and twist them around into making amazing money. Look at the Kardashians. But very few have the talent of Kris Jenner, who is able to make lemons into lemonade so easily. So I suggest you mind your manners and you become a little bit more modest. And not everything has to be televised.
That's so true. And make a decision. The people need to plan things out. They got to look at, okay, what do I plan on doing in my career? And if I also plan on doing something else later, what are the repercussions of doing this? The Kardashians are ones that survived it. And it's, again, it happened.
Donald
However,
Trump
a
did
lot of
too.
people, and Donald Trump did too. So there's few that have.
So
So if
a
you're,
few, but they are very, very talented and they have a whole bunch of money to protect
yeah,
themselves.
exactly.
John Q. Public doesn't have those options. And so I warn everybody to remind your children. And I mean, the kids, look, when you're a young kid, you don't think about consequences. That's what determines being a young kid versus a responsible adult. You don't think about, oh, if I do this, what's going to happen?
Yep. All right. And
So,
so anything else to add to this one? I think it's the is there a
no.
Gildagram for this? No.
Yeah, the GildaGram is be modest because you don't know when your immodesty will follow you years later, and then you'll be it'll be impossible for you to take it back. You can't unsay something that you already said, and the viewing public can't unsee something that they already saw.
All right. That was a special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and the Gildagram Podcast. Go to drgilda.com.